Why would anyone want to order a custom rifle in 30-06? It's an old cartridge. Well, folks, I did, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so this rifle right here was my first ever custom rifle, and I ordered it in 30-06 for a variety of reasons 15 plus years ago. And yet it's all state-of-the-art, cutting-edge components, with the exception of the fact that it's built on a classic controlled round receiver, an action from Winchester. It's a Model 70 with that wonderful Mauser-type claw extractor and the reliability that it comes with. So why did I pick 30-06? Now, a lot of reasons. It's an extremely capable cartridge on a broad spectrum of big game. And that's not just in North America. It's good in Africa, Europe, anywhere you want to take this to hunt. This cartridge is useful on a wide spectrum of game, from small deer, even predators, right up through moose-sized big game. A lot of grizzly bears and brown bears have been shot with it over the years. One of my favorite characters in history is Frank Glasser, who was Alaska's Wolfman. I believe an author named Dan Reardon, if I'm not mistaken, wrote about him, and he used a pre-64 Model 70 Winchester chambered in 30-06 for more than 40 years on the Alaskan frontier, and at one point he was tasked with reducing the population of grizzly bears in an area where they were just booming, and the moose population was being catastrophically hit by these bears. And so Alaska's Fish and Game commissioned him to go in and shoot a large number of grizzly bears on a control effort. And he has some gnarly tales about getting between big bears, trying to shoot them both with his 30-06. He liked to use 220 grain round nose bullets, big heavy bullets with a high sectional density on those big grizzly bears. But anyway, I digress. So the 30-06 shoots a broad spectrum of bullet weights and types at very useful velocities without recoiling so hard that it loosens the fillings in your teeth, right? This is why it's so capable. You can shoot 150 grain bullets on white-tailed deer and get 3,000 feet per second of muzzle velocity. They work really, really well. You can go up to 165 grain controlled expansion bullet, or 180 grain, even better. That's kind of where the sweet spot is for the 30-06, and hunt elk and big black bears. You know, those 400 plus pounders that we all dream of, and moose and so forth, very, very effectively. And like Frank Glasser did, if you want to shoot a coastal brown bear or a big male interior grizzly bear with your 30-06, you can use that same controlled expansion 180 grain bullet, or go up to a 200 grain partition or 220 grain partition, or a heavy monometal by Barnes Bullets, or a Swift A-frame, something like that. And you're going to get fantastic penetration, deep straight line penetration, even through heavy bone and so forth. Another reason to use a 30-06 is because it's an American institution. This is the cartridge that got us through 2 world wars and became much loved to the American soldiers that used it overseas and then returned home and adopted it as their favorite hunting cartridge. It's a good, accurate cartridge in a well-built rifle like this one. That said, most of the rifles built back then and even today were built to what I like to call battlefield protocol, where the chambers had some fairly generous dimensional tolerances so that out of spec ammunition or dirty ammunition, or if you're in real gnarly conditions with water and mud or frozen water, I almost said, snow and ice on your ammunition, you can still horsepower that bolt shut on a cartridge and get it to fire because you're not running such tight tolerances. Well, the side effect of that reliability is that accuracy sometimes isn't quite as stellar as you might find with a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 7mm PRC these days, 6.8 Western. Those modern cartridges that are built, chamber tolerances and ammunition are built to very, very tight tolerances. Anyway, I digress again. I'm a cartridge nerd. I guess I can't help it. Anyway, let me tell you about this rifle that I built in 30-06. But first I want to just state exactly why I chose the cartridge. When I commissioned this rifle, the thought behind it was something that was capable on everything in North America, that I could take overseas to Africa or New Zealand, Australia, Europe, wherever, and I wouldn't be undergunned on anything but dangerous game, and something that could be a one-gun future tool. Like that sort of thing that if the zombie apocalypse happens, you could find ammunition in most garages across the United States. You could share ammunition with other hunters and fellow survivalists and so forth. Just kind of a cool conceptual rifle. So there was no other appropriate answer than the 30-06. Let me show you and tell you a little bit about this specific rifle. I mentioned it was a Model 70 action. It's a controlled feed Model 70 action built in the early 90s when they brought the classic type back. 3-position safety. Of course, forward is fire. In the middle, you can open the bolt, but it's still on safe, so you can clear your chamber without taking it off safety. And rearward, this is something I really like. It locks that bolt. You can't open it. The action itself is a blued action. It was not stainless. So I had the entire rifle Cerakoted to protect it against weather and corrosion in moisture, salt water, anything like that. The barrel is a stainless steel match grade barrel. This one was made by Lilja back in the day, and it's a 3-groove barrel. I don't know why, but that's what it is, and it shoots pretty well. The stock is by Macmillan, and it's just one of their classic Winchester style stocks, checkering molded into the forend, the pistol grip. It's got a traditional, teardrop, half teardrop swept type of cheek rest on it. Really nice decelerator recoil pad, which 30-06 doesn't recoil too much, especially in a standard sporter weight rifle like this, but it's still nice to have a good recoil pad that spreads that recoil out over your shoulder. The barrel, just because I could, I had it built to 23 inches. These days I'd probably do 22 inches, and I'd leave another ½ inch of muzzle on there, and I'd have it threaded and a discrete thread protector put on there so that I could use a suppressor. But at the time, I didn't yet have a suppressor, and they really weren't a thing like they are now. Trigger's a Timney trigger. Bottom metal is by Sunny Hill. Beautifully contoured, machined bottom metal, one piece, which is something you can do to upgrade a Model 70 that has factory 2-piece bottom metal on it. Of course, the rifle being built by Hill Country Rifles, which is an extraordinary, very, very high quality custom builder. They both pillar and glass bedded the action into the Macmillan stock. This is a Macmillan with the edge fill, which is their ultra lightweight fill inside of a carbon fiber shell. As you can see, it's kind of a dark OD green with black spider webbing on it. And then we get into some of the other cool features. I really wanted this rifle, being, what it is, the conceptual, just hard-working tool to last to the end of days. I wanted it to have iron sights. And so we put NECG, New England Custom Gun, front sight and a special custom rear sight on it. This is a barrel band front sight just because the look is so classic. Plus they're incredibly durable. It has interchangeable front inserts, but what I did is I just took a tall bead. I don't like a bead front sight. Cut the bead off the top and then squared it up. It's got a very fine top on that front. I grew up shooting competitively in service rifle disciplines and other types of iron sight rifle disciplines, and with a fine square topped front post and the right rear sight, you can make very, very consistent shots, much further than you can with a bead front sight. The hood, as you can see, has a ventilated sides on there, so it both gives your front sight the clarity of being shaded by a hood with enough light coming through that it doesn't become indistinct. Now the rear sight, I'm going to have to pop off the scope in its quick detach rings to show you. Okay, so let me tell you about the rings first. These are by Tally. They're on steel bases, and they have quick detach levers, so you can just spin them off just like that, and that scope lifts right off. Steel rings, steel bases, extremely high quality, so your return to zero is outstanding. Now, I don't know if you can see it in here. We'll try and zoom in with the footage or take some additional footage, but built into the back of this Tally steel base is what was called a Jim Brockman pop-up peep sight. So Jim Brockman's a good custom gunsmith, and he invented these little accessory parts that you could permanently attach to a rear scope base with a spring-loaded aperture in the very back. They've been discontinued for a long time, folks, and I don't know if he is or ever will make them again, but this is just an outstanding setup because they are adjustable for wind and elevation. I've got these ones zeroed at 200 yards with my 180 grain loads, and as soon as I pop that scope off, I can go straight to my aperture rear sight and that clear, distinct, fine front sight and do some pretty good shooting in the field. As far as the scope I've got on it, this one is one of the new Leupold VX5 HD scopes in the Gen 2. So it's got the easily adjustable turret on top. Once you've sighted in your rifle, you can just pop that lever up, slip the turret back to its zero stop, zero locking function, and lower your lever, and your reset. Your zero stop and your zero lock are reset. It's tool free, which is pretty cool. I had to use this scope because I was really enamored with the new design, and so far it's been awesome. As far as the load I'm using, it's got one of my favorite all-purpose bullets in it. It's a Swift 180 grain Sirocco 2. It's got a really thick jacket and the lead core is bonded in, so it's an extremely tough bullet. It was actually the first boat-tailed, highly aerodynamic bullet to incorporate bonding between the lead and the core and a composite tip to help with the aerodynamics. Very accurate bullet. I load this about 30 thousandths off the lands, and I use Hodgdon's H48 31 shortcut powder. This rifle is in perfect conditions. With the right load, it's a half-inch rifle, but for the most part, it's just an honest sub-inch, barely sub-inch gun with almost anything you put in it, which is another great beauty of the 30-06 is its versatility. So here's the cool thing, folks. I have had this rifle not in retirement, but on standby in my rifle safe for way too many years. Here in the very near future, I'm taking it to Africa, and we're going to do some hunting and just blow off the cobwebs and come full circle back to what is one of my favorite, highly dependable, count on it to do almost anything, cartridges on the Dart continent, where you can shoot anything from a 20-pound antelope in the tiny 10 family right up to a 2,000-pound eland on the same day. That's why you choose a versatile cartridge like the 30-06. I can't think of a better cartridge to commission a true custom rifle in. A one for everything, stand by your side till the end of days kind of rifle. There you have it, folks. That's why I chose the 30-06 to build my favorite custom Model 70. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joseph von Benedict, and I'll see you in the backcountry.